Rain dances work 100% of the time, if you dance until it rains. Someone kind of jokingly said this to me recently at an entrepreneur event, and I thought, man, right, I get it, it's clever, but there's actual genius behind that. You tend to get what you're looking for if you don't stop looking. Right? Like you eventually arrive where you need to be if your feet don't stop moving. The question we often find ourselves asking is, did the dance work? But the real question, the question of value, is how long are you willing to dance around that fire? How much of yourself did you put into the pursuit? You know, it's both liberating and terrifying to find out that there is no failure in life. There's simply the permission we give ourselves to move forward. That trajectory we continue on up until we reach a point where we look around and say, no thank you, I'm done. Because if you're moving forward, you haven't failed. You have not lost. If you're moving forward, everything is possible. If you're moving forward, you are creating reality. The question is not, have you failed? The question is, are you still willing to move forward? It's not, did the rain dance bring the rain? It's, were you willing to dance around that fire until the skies opened up? I often think about the Stoic idea that there are things we can control and there are things we can't. And knowing that difference is wisdom. Right? The same idea that has become, as many people know, the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's certainly powerful to understand the difference between what we can control and what we can't, but it's also worth noting that those things we cannot control, even when they seem to make life harder, when they're not what we want, when they're frustrating and difficult and exhausting, they can be brought into your world and leveraged as tools to ultimately get you where you need to go. Slingshot to something better, right? There's value in all of it. And if you're looking at life through the lens of, I'm not stopping until X happens, well, then everything that occurs around you is just a vehicle taking you closer to X. Put simply, you can't always control what happens, but you can always control what you do with what happens. And that's power. That is strength. So, using a tangible, practical example, right around the time COVID emerged in 2020, I was speaking about 5 or 6 times a month. I had video production clients, and my own personal content creation was relatively minimal. And so that hit to our way of life, the one we all endured, took a lot of companies' budgets, right? That uncertainty prevented a lot of people from spending the marketing money they were spending. And on its face, it's a bad thing, right? It took a lot of business from me. But I look back now and I'm like, that pivot, 10x'd, 20x'd my digital footprint. I was able to reach more people from my home studio. I adjusted, right? And that was the beginning of the most important transition of my business. To be honest, perhaps even my life at that point. You can't control a virus. You can't control the public's reaction to it. But you can take the pieces and make something with them. You can dance around that fire until it rains, and dance around it I did. And by the way, so many people I know today did the same thing. Adversity has created more masterpieces, more miracles than calm ever could, because it makes us step back and look at our creation in a new way. Remember, quitting is not something that the external world projects upon you. Quitting is looking around and saying, wow, this is a lot. This is more than I can handle. I'm done. This is the end. I don't want to walk into the storm. I'm not interested in embracing the chaos. And I want to take a second to remind you that if you put your head down and just continuously step into it, if you can remind yourself, I didn't make this situation, but day by day I can make something valuable from it, you're making yourself powerful beyond measure. It's not superhuman strength or some godly intellect that makes the difference at the end of the day. It's a willingness to understand, right? That if you do not stop, if you're willing to adjust and keep moving forward, you become invincible. There's a lot you can't control, but you can control what it all means and how you'll navigate it. That understanding is greatness. So dance around that fire until the rain falls, because if you dance long enough, it surely will.